He looked at me, let out a sigh, and said, "I guess we should stop." I just looked at him and smiled. He finally said it. I'd been waiting a long time to hear that. A breakup, but no broken hearts. An ending that was really the start of freedom. What do you think happened before that moment? Let me take you into a story where breaking up wasn't a loss, it was a wake-up call. I met Logan when I was 24. I had just started at a small law firm in Boston, fresh out of school, still clinging to the belief that justice always wins, and that love, like a contract, would last as long as both sides signed on. Logan wasn't like anyone I'd ever met. He was a photographer, freelance, unattached to any company or fixed project. We met at an art exhibit I went to with a coworker. His hair was a mess, and his eyes, sharp, intense, looked at people like they were layers he could peel away. We bumped into each other when I spilled a glass of water. No wine. No candlelight. Just water. And a look. 3 weeks later, I moved into his apartment. So fast my friends thought I was joking. But back then, it felt like I was living in an indie film, where people fall in love with their eyes, speak in silence, and understand each other without needing too many words. Logan was an incredible photographer. He could take the most ordinary thing, an old ashtray, a crack in the ceiling, and make it feel alive. I used to think, if he looked at me through his lens, maybe I'd become special too. And he did photograph me, a lot, but not to make me beautiful, just to make me fit into the way he saw me. In the beginning, he gave me little photos, printed on silk paper, with artsy quotes scribbled on the back. "You're a symphony I haven't named yet. Don't change. You're perfect as you are." Back then, those words gave me chills. Now I see them as a gilded cage, because soon he started picking what I should eat. "Don't load up on carbs. Your face gets rounder than the lens can handle." So I cut back. He said olive green suited me better than any other color, so I got rid of all my red clothes. "Your friend, the one with the highlights? She's not genuine. You'd be better off without her." I unfriended her, without even asking why. I thought that was care. A kind of sensitivity ordinary guys just didn't have. Because Logan wasn't ordinary. He said, "I just want you to be better, the best." And I, stupidly, believed that real love was supposed to be a process of polishing someone down. The year later, I moved all my stuff into his apartment. It was a beautiful place. Every corner had photos hanging, his photos. Strangers, concepts, carefully staged scenes, but nothing of mine. No framed picture of my parents, no old books, not even the ring box I'd kept since I was 15. Logan called those things visual clutter. He liked clean space, minimalism. I called it erasing me. I worked 10 hours a day, came home completely drained, but he'd hand me his camera and say, "Hold this ceramic bowl, like you're sad." If I said I was tired, he'd go silent. Not one word, no reaction. But his face, like I just killed the imaginary cat he loved. He had a way of making me feel guilty for having a decent job, for being busy, for wanting to sleep early, for not being a constant source of inspiration he could squeeze on demand. I remember one time, just once, I said, "I need a quiet day. I don't want to shoot. I don't want to pose. I just want peace." He stood up, gave a little laugh and said, "Didn't think you were that basic." I stayed silent, because I knew if I pushed back, the fight would last all night. But if I kept quiet, maybe things would be fine tomorrow. And every time, it ended the same way. He'd go cold, like I deeply betrayed him. I'd try to smooth things over, buy him his favorite pastry, apologize even when I wasn't wrong. And eventually he'd take my hand, lean in and say softly, "I forgive you because I love you." I used to think that love meant this. Compromise, endurance, being soft when the other person is angry. I didn't call it toxic. Not back then. I called it love. The complicated kind. I don't even remember the last time I wore a red dress. Maybe year 2, when I still had a small part of myself that hadn't been bent to fit Logan's shape. But by year 3, even that was worn down. At first, it was subtle. Red makes you look a little too noticeable. Then it turned into orders. "I don't like you wearing things that make other people look at you like that." First it was the red dress, then lipstick, then social media. He wanted me to delete all of it. "No one's genuine online," he said. And the final blow, "If you need validation from strangers, maybe I'm not enough for you." I deleted everything. Instagram, Facebook. One time, I posted a photo from a coworker's birthday dinner. Just women. He went silent. Didn't say a word for 3 hours. That night, I had to explain every person in the picture, why I went, when I came home, and why I didn't text him at 10:47 like I usually did. I learned my lesson. Not from him, from myself. I'd started apologizing for things that weren't wrong. Logan didn't yell. He never laid a hand on me. But his silence was the loudest scream I've ever heard. The way he'd just stare at me, saying nothing, made my heart freeze in slow motion. And when I finally pushed back, too tired, asking why, he'd just sigh and say, "I guess I'm not good enough for you." That line, always that line. Like I was the one hurting him. Like having friends, a career, a pulse, was what caused him pain. I didn't realize I was slowly being suffocated. I just thought love meant balance, sacrifice. I once had the chance to travel for work, to Seattle. A 2-week project. My direct supervisor even hinted I could be up for a management role if I nailed it. But the moment Logan heard 2 weeks apart, he stopped sleeping. Every night he'd ask, "Why are you going? Are you choosing your career or me?" I didn't answer. The next morning, I sent an email pulling out of the project. That night he held me tight, almost too tight, and said, "I knew you loved me." I stayed quiet, not because I agreed, but because I didn't have the strength to argue anymore. There was one time he disappeared for 2 days. No warning, phone off, no message, no note. I called his mom, his best friend. No one knew anything. I was panicking, terrified something had happened. On the evening of the 3rd day, he came home, saw me crying, and gave a small smile. "I just wanted to see if you really cared." I should have walked out that day. That should have been it. But I didn't leave. I started thinking, maybe something's wrong with me. Maybe I'm too cold. Maybe I'm not enough. Those words didn't come from him. They came from me, reshaped into the version he wanted. I did pack once, 2 suitcases. One morning while he was still asleep. I got to the door, then heard him sob behind me. "You're really leaving?" I turned around. He was sitting on the floor, face in his hands like a child left behind. I put the suitcases down, sat beside him, and stayed. Not once, twice, 3 times. I left, then came back. And slowly I started believing I was the one in the wrong, for even thinking about leaving someone who loved me that much. I called it love, but looking back, it was fear, dressed up in affection. What finally sent a chill down my spine was the time he said during an argument, "You exist because of me. If you leave, we both die." That wasn't a threat anymore. It was a sentence, and for the first time I saw it clearly. This wasn't love. This was emotional captivity wrapped in the word care. This was a leash made of guilt. A prison where I held the key but was warned I'd be destroyed if I used it. I used to think, "If you leave, we both die," was the final line. Turns out, it wasn't. People like Logan don't have limits. They just have the next checkpoint to see how far back you'll keep stepping. It started on a regular weeknight. He had his camera out, tripod set up in the living room, and told me to stand in the light. I was folding clothes. I asked, "What are we shooting?" He said, "A rebirth series, feminine power. You're the center of it." Seemed harmless enough until he added, "To fully express the message, you should be nude." I laughed, thought it was a joke, but he didn't laugh back. He just stood there, dead serious, like he was asking me to sign a contract to save the world. I paused, then said, "I can't do that." It was the first time I ever said no to him. Firm. No excuses, no but. He didn't argue, didn't get angry, just nodded, folded up the tripod, packed it away, and then didn't speak to me for the next 3 days. He didn't eat, didn't sleep, didn't leave the apartment. Then I got a text from his mom. "Logan says you're pushing him over the edge. What's going on?" I didn't reply. I just stared at my phone. Then looked in the mirror. The face staring back didn't look familiar. My eyes were sunken, lips pale, shoulders slumped like I was carrying something heavier than any 10-hour workday. I touched my neck, cold, like whoever I used to be wasn't there anymore. I pulled open a drawer and took out a blank sheet of paper. I made 2 columns. On one side, the things that were mine, my degree, my early morning routine, my best friend from college, the silver ring my mom gave me when I was 16. On the other side, the things that were his camera, the photos covering the walls. All those endless monologues about aesthetics. And in the middle, I wrote one line, "What I've lost." The list was longer than I expected. My laugh, the freedom to dress how I wanted, the right to be silent without being punished, the ability to feel like I mattered without needing someone else to say so. I sat there when I finished, didn't cry, didn't feel angry, just empty. The next day, I ordered a new suitcase, one with a combination lock and rubber-coated handle. I chose gray, neutral, unremarkable, nothing that would make Logan think it was some kind of statement. Each night after he fell asleep, I quietly packed a little more. Not much, just the things that were truly mine. I wasn't planning to leave just yet. I knew if I made the first move, he'd pull me back, with tears, with threats, with that broken, helpless look he'd perfected over time. I needed him to say it. I needed that final push, so I wouldn't turn around so I wouldn't feel the need to explain. And then it happened. Just a normal evening. I was washing dishes. He was scrolling his phone at the kitchen table. No flowers, no wine, no cologne sprayed in the air, no warning. He looked up, calm and flat. I think we should break up. I turned off the faucet, dried my hands on the towel hanging nearby, turned to face him. I saw that familiar look in his eyes, not exactly cold, but expectant, waiting for me to cry, to push back, to shake, to scream, to beg him not to say it. But I didn't do any of that. I smiled, not forced, not glowing, just a light, quiet smile, like I could finally breathe after being held underwater too long. I agree, I said. I've been waiting for this moment. He flinched, didn't say a word. Maybe the script in his head never had this scene. Maybe he thought he was playing the final move, but I had already folded the board. There was nothing more to say. Everything that needed saying was in that one word, agree. That answer wasn't for him. It was a message to myself, to the version of me that had endured too much, held her breath too long, lived too long for someone else. And I knew, this time no amount of tears could pull me back. Logan didn't react right away. He looked at me like he'd just woken up in a dream gone wrong, like he was the one betrayed, like I had stabbed him in his own home. A minute later, he shot to his feet, voice cracking. You don't feel anything? I looked him straight in the eye. Pain means I still loved you. His face twitched, but I didn't stop. I pulled out the gray suitcase I'd been quietly packing night after night. My steps were light, no yelling, no shattered glass. The door clicked shut behind me. No one ran after me. I took a cab to the apartment I'd already put a deposit on, a small studio on the 3rd floor, south side of the city. White walls, no photos, no camera gear, no complaints about lighting or angles or curtain colors. For the first time in 5 years, I picked my own bed sheets just because I liked the color. Decided when to eat dinner without being questioned for not cooking. Played loud music at 11 p.m. and didn't feel guilty. I didn't turn my phone on for 2 days. When I finally did, there were 37 messages from Logan. The first one, do you really want to end this? Then, I was wrong, I can't live without you. Then it shifted. What do you think I am, some toy you toss away when you're done? And finally, if you don't come back, I'll disappear from this world, for real this time. I didn't reply. I wasn't scared anymore. I knew if I answered I'd fall right back into the same loop. He threatens to die. I comfort him. He apologizes. I soften. He promises to change. I believe him. And then everything resets. My friend Mandy called. She just heard from someone that Logan was saying she left me for another guy. Cheated behind my back, then staged a clean breakup. I wasn't surprised. That was the same tired script he used for the ex before me. But this time, I didn't feel the need to defend myself. Didn't need to clear the air with anyone. Didn't need to explain how much I endured, how hard I tried, or how much it hurt. I didn't need anyone to understand me. I just needed me to be free. Freedom isn't when someone unlocks the door for you. It's when you walk out on your own, knowing it might be cold out there, it might be lonely, but at least no one is controlling your breath anymore. I finished unpacking at 2 a.m. No tears, no flashbacks, no wondering what Logan was doing. I turned off the lights and lay down. The room was so quiet I could hear the wind outside the window. Not the kind of wind that hisses through clenched teeth. Real wind, cool, gentle. I slept straight through until 10 the next morning. No dreams of being accused for being late to work. No scenes of being scolded for laughing with a male coworker. No subconscious apologies. I woke up. No tie. No pressure. Just me. A small, shaky version of me, but breathing the right way for the first time in a long time. I'm not running anymore. Not avoiding eye contact. Not reshaping myself to keep anyone happy. Not trying to understand someone who no longer wants to be understood. I'm coming back to life. Little by little. In my own way. In a small room with no photographs, but full of light. In a body that once felt broken, but is now beginning to rebuild. I used to think freedom was something you're granted. Now I know. Freedom is something you claim. And I did. No permission needed. No audience required. Just the quiet certainty that I deserve it. I didn't expect Logan to stay silent forever, but I also didn't expect him to react like a live wire hitting water. The moment he realized he'd truly lost control, he started thrashing, like someone drowning. The first message came in at 3 a.m. So long I had to scroll until my wrist ached just to reach the end. It read like a prosecution letter. He called me a traitor, a user, someone cruel enough to leave when the other person is at their weakest. At one point he wrote, "You took everything from me, even my faith in people." I stopped reading halfway through and deleted it. Not out of anger, but because it was clear he was still performing. Only this time, the audience had left the theater. The next morning, my sister called. She asked if I knew Logan was in the hospital. I asked where she heard that. She said, "He sent me a photo from a hospital bed. IV in his arm, looks serious." I told her to forward the photo. I froze, not from fear, but clarity. The hospital name was in South Florida, and if I remembered right, Logan lived in a completely different state. He hadn't said anything about traveling, not once. I didn't respond to my sister. I didn't call him. A day later, he called me, this time with a ragged, gravelly voice, like someone barely surviving. "I was in an accident, got hit by a car, unconscious for 6 hours, but I still thought about you." I hung up mid-sentence. He was still going, talking about the screeching tires, the white car swerving, the scrape on his shoulder. I didn't need to hear more. I'd heard these stories before from the women who came before me. They too were cast as the emotional anchors in his endless tragedies. Scripts he wrote to keep his audience from walking out, but it didn't stop there. 2 days later, I saw him waiting in the office parking lot. Black shirt, baseball cap, sunglasses, like some paparazzo stalking a target. I walked straight into the building, didn't look back. Went to security. They came out right away and told him to leave. He didn't resist. He just looked at me through the glass, his gaze no longer pleading but as if to say, "I'm still here. Don't forget me." That night, I got a message from a mutual friend. "Logan says you've been brainwashed, that you're not yourself anymore, that someone's manipulating you, controlling you." I sat still, staring at the words on the screen. No reaction, no anger, no laughter. Just clarity. He was trying to pull the same move that once worked, paint me as the one in the wrong so he could play the noble forgiver. But this time, there was no one left for him to forgive. I wasn't there anymore, burying my head in his chest, crying over how cruel I'd been. I no longer believed his silence meant strength. I no longer hoped that "I still love you" was a signal to fix things. I'd stepped off the stage, and Logan, all alone, was performing for the air. A few days later, I got a letter from a law office. Logan was requesting a division of assets, including shared items from our old apartment. The list was nearly 5 pages long, down to the wooden coat rack I'd bought with my own money. I wasn't angry. I didn't argue. I just sent a single-line email to his lawyer. Everything in the apartment is his. As for me, I now belong to myself. No more, no less, no room for negotiation. I'd closed the ledger. No debt, no loan, no excess. After that, Logan disappeared completely. No messages, no calls, no demands. He withdrew like someone who finally understood every last move had failed. Because a manipulator only holds power when the victim stays on the stage. But when you walk away and don't look back, he has no power left but the past. And I don't live in the past anymore. 6 months later, my life isn't anything extraordinary, but it's no longer in chaos. I wake up on time, clock in at the office when I'm scheduled, hit the gym 3 times a week, and eat a quiet dinner without needing anyone's permission. No more camera shutter clicking in the middle of the night. No more texts asking where I am at 7:12 p.m. No more looks that made me feel wrong before I even spoke. I've started painting again, not for a gallery, not for anyone to see, just strokes bleeding across paper, crooked, clumsy, but honest. Each piece feels like shedding old skin, letting what's underneath breathe for the first time after years buried in dust. I met a few people. Some were kind, some just passed through. But I no longer felt the need to rush. No longer craved to be seen as pretty enough, sweet enough, lovable enough to be kept. I was learning to live with myself, a woman who no longer feared the way others looked at her, who no longer bent herself just to stay in someone else's story. One weekend afternoon, while I was browsing books in a small bookstore, I heard someone call my name. I turned around. It was Logan's mother. She looked older than I remembered, her hair noticeably gray, her posture slightly stooped. She looked at me for a long moment, then simply said, "Thank you for putting up with him for as long as you did." I didn't know what to say. I just gave a small smile. No one has to put up with him anymore. We didn't say anything else. She nodded, then walked away. And that was enough. I heard Logan has someone new, a younger girl, long hair, into vintage clothes. He did a photo shoot for her called Rebirth Again. I glanced at a few photos on a photography page a mutual friend sent. Then I closed it. Felt nothing. No jealousy, no bitterness, no sadness, just distance. I don't resent Logan. I just don't let him exist in my choices anymore. I don't need revenge. I don't need anyone to know whether I was right or wrong. I just need to live a life where I don't have to censor every word I say. Back then, I thought love meant endurance, meant patience, meant sacrifice. I believed the more it hurt, the more real it was. But now I know, love isn't about one person shrinking so the other can shine. Love is when both people grow, together, toward something better, without one being stepped on so the other can stand taller. If you've been waiting for a sign to leave a place that makes you feel small, drained, this is it. Sometimes, you don't need to struggle, don't need to fight, don't need to scream. You just need to be clear-headed enough to nod, walk away, and not look back. Because real freedom isn't something you ask for, it's something you give yourself. When you understand that you deserve peace, not after the pain, but right now, the moment you're ready to let go. Sometimes, love doesn't leave with a grand betrayal. It leaves through small cuts, day by day, a sarcastic remark, a colder stare, silence used as punishment. We stay, thinking every relationship requires patience. Until we realize, patience doesn't mean accepting being worn down. Freedom doesn't come when someone lets go. It comes when you're clear-eyed enough to see. Real love doesn't make you smaller, doesn't make you beg, doesn't turn you into a survivor in your own story. If you're in a relationship where you're always apologizing for how you feel, are you sure that's love? Leave a comment if you've been through something like this. And don't forget to subscribe to Love Stories, where real voices share what it's like to walk through the storm and find yourself on the other side of the closed door.